Hello, y'all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you find this. I hope you're doing amazing. Um, I just have a couple things to say, but Father God had me yesterday um, getting enough information from right sources, but also other sources that I was getting my information. He revealed during this time to assess, re-educate myself, and also be okay with making mistakes while we're doing this work. We're not supposed to be perfect in this, but I do want to. He wanted to show you why it's important to make sure that because this is a time of Ramadan, right? And during this time, a lot of reflection for sure. Like, for example, I'm learning the value of water. Like, before I used to, like, oh, just drink water anytime or whatever, but now, as of the third day of Ramadan, like today's the fourth day, I'm just like, holy moly, how important it is, and how, you know, like vital it is, and also like being grateful that you have clean water, that you have accessible water, that you can, do your necessities and wash yourself and stuff with clean water. Um, and that too is like the importance of also, because that's what I'm cutting off, like I'm detoxing from a lot of things, for example, like coffee or junk food or chips or anything like that, and just eating healthy food like vegetables. It's really organic food, but even that's also something that I'm looking into. Is like, damn, um, like I appreciate even like the taste of the food. Also, when I'm done fasting, is really remarkable. Anyways, so this might be a little bit longer, so I'm just letting you know. But I just want to say thank you so much for those who like, comment, share, and subscribe, because we are definitely heavily being censored here, definitely being suppressed our content, and especially now with this. You guys already know why they're banning TikTok, right? Not only I have a couple people that talk about that of the reason why, and this comes from Holy Spirit Himself. So I don't want to repeat whatever they want to say, but I do want you guys to understand that this has nothing to do with them, trying to prevent people from seeing. No, it's basically control. And the enemy, our common enemy, likes to kill, destroy, delay, and control, and power, and greed, and all of that, which most of the stuff that we're dealing with, the system is corrupt. And this is their way of like, okay, well, a lot of people are getting their information that we want to hide because we still want to do evil things, and sadistic and psychopathic things, just like murder people, criminals, right? They don't want their stuff that they're doing in the dark for money or any type of way, whatever they're doing it, to be exposed, right? And we are exposing it. First, it was the energy when we were reading energies. Remember during like 2, 3 years, 4 years ago, they will suppress that and quiet that, and a lot of readers were going through that. Then there's the copycat energy, and then there's and that too, guys. Just be aware of the heavy rituals that they do, which we know now is a lot of confusion spells, a lot of distraction, a lot of separation. So those who are in the diaspora of Palestine, Congo, and Sudan, make sure that you are, yes, you can criticize, yes, you can call on people and stuff like that, but do it in a way that, remember, you are in the same team, okay? And remember that the Zionists, satanic people, they are very happy that you go against each other, okay? Yes, it's good to call each other out and hold each other accountable. You have integrity, okay? And you're honest, and that's okay. But when they're calling you out on something that you know you shouldn't be doing, that you know it's not right, just fix it, okay? That comes from the Most High, too. That's just what it is, okay? Educate yourself. Do better, all right? And a lot of people make sure that today he was giving the scripture today of, um, don't show your left hand, what your right hand is doing, right? So not doing stuff for clout, not doing stuff like, just do it because of your kind heart, because of at the end of the day, God only cares about your heart, okay? Other than that, I feel like this is a fear tactic that they're doing with the TikTok thing, because they know that most of the information that we're getting is not just only TikTok, there's IG, and even those things, those apps are heavily suppressed, and then YouTube as well. So it's crazy that now it's like the fear mongrel. But the thing is because I see I don't see this as a failure. I see this as a win, because it's still exposing themselves of how scared they are that a lot of people are educating themselves. Like, look at it this way. They are scared. They are so scared that we are educating ourselves, that we're decolonizing, okay? So it is working. So look at it that way. But I know that a lot of people, if this actually bill goes into effect, which it shouldn't, we shouldn't let it. We should call a Congress, we should call a representative. It's not right, especially suppression of speech, and democracy, right? We should exercise our rights, our human rights, okay? And don't let the fear get you, because that's part of the ritual as well, to get you guys fearful and stuff like that. But you do know that the banning of this also is that they are understanding that people are learning how to sustain themselves. There are small businesses that benefit a lot from TikTok. They're getting paid and stuff like that. Like, they don't, they can work multiple jobs, or they can leave those jobs and, do their own independent work. So this is a fear tactic. For example, let me explain. Recently, the government here of Quebec has given me a fine because my business hasn't made the revenue that they're expecting for the past, I don't know. So I've been outed since like 2019 or something like that, which, by the way, I opened the business in 2017, so they were expecting something, right? So because that wasn't the case, and also because I'm doing something completely outside of the status quo, completely, I don't want to do partnership with people that are, okay with genocide. I'm completely against stuff to do, in the legal way or the corrupt way, or I'm not going to sell my body or my soul or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? So that really bothered this government. So they have given me a 268 fine to be paid as soon as possible. And I called them to make a payment plan, because I was like, I really thought it was something else. But when they told me that was it, I was like, so that's your way of telling me that either I close the business or I continue paying fine if I don't do what this government wants my business to do? It's not going to happen. I mean, at the end of the day, Writers Yep, Your Story Matter podcast, Angie Blog, Divine Intuitive, it's not mine. They're from God. So they have to deal with him, not me. So I'm just letting you guys know that no matter what happens, if there is this resistance, is this retaliation for something that you're doing that is helping people, is helping people wake up, is helping people being in alignment, is helping people do better for themselves, rebuild themselves, be independent, completely outside of the matrix, you're doing something right. Okay? So this is also a message for those who are on TikTok that you feel completely like a lot of you, I know that your businesses are there, and also I know it's been affecting even people from Instagram as well, that your business is in Instagram as well, and the YouTube as well. I understand, it's very difficult. We all have to pay ends meet. I understand, but a lot of you, I explained to you before that you have to put God first. He'll take care of the rest. That's why I'm not worried about this stuff. And you shouldn't be worried about the TikTok thing. They're not better than God, and God created that TikTok. And obviously we know why now, right?
A warning to our viewers that what you are about to see is quite disturbing, and it has to do with children. This is the human cost of the Israel-Gaza war. These are tiny figures of children on the walls of our studio, one for almost each of the 12,800 kids who have died in Gaza, according to numbers from Gaza's health ministry. The death toll, quite frankly, is hard to keep up with. Airstrikes and now malnutrition and dehydration are killing them. Here's a glimpse inside Kamal Adwan Hospital in northern Gaza, where several children have died of starvation.
tiny limbs, bones protruding. The constant sound of crying from children now facing starvation in Gaza. These were little Yazan's final moments, his tiny fingers gripped in his mother's hand.
Yazan al-Kafarne was just 10 years old when he died on Monday. And a day later, UNICEF sounded this alarm. The babies of thousands of women who are due to give birth in the next month in the Gaza Strip are at risk of dying. Premature births are up. Mothers, dehydrated and traumatized, struggle to breastfeed. They can't find formula. They can't find clean water. And without relief, the threat from famine could eclipse that of airstrikes, like the one this past weekend in Rafah that killed 5-month-olds Wasim and Naim Abu Anza, twins, long awaited by their parents who finally conceived 11 years after they married, according to Reuters. Their mother, Rania, told the news agency, "We were asleep. We were not shooting and we were not fighting. What is their fault? What is their fault? What is her fault?" In October, an Israeli strike killed 11-year-old Malak Sharaf, along with her 10-year-old brother Malik, and their 6- and 3-year-old sisters Yasmin and Noor, according to the Washington Post. And 13 of their cousins also died. In October, Al Jazeera reported that an airstrike on a home where Gaza bureau chief Wael al-Dawdu's family was sheltering after being displaced killed his wife, his 15-year-old son Mahmoud, his 7-year-old daughter Sham, and his 1.5-year-old grandson Adam. The distraught journalist carrying Adam's tiny body through Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital shortly afterward.
It is pretty tough video to watch, and it's actually even worse than this because a statement from the family said that there were 12 members of the al-Dawdu family who were killed. 9 of them were children.
In November, brother and sister Tariq and Reem, 5 and 3 years old, were asleep side by side when an airstrike killed them in southern Gaza. Their grandfather, Khalid Nabhan, told CNN he was wishing, hoping that they were only sleeping, but they weren't sleeping. They were gone. Al Jazeera reported that Salma Jaber was fleeing Gaza City with her family in December when they came under fire, and the 4-year-old was shot in the neck and died. The middle child in the family, Salma's father described her as mischievous and intelligent. And in January, 6-year-old Hind Rajab was trapped in a car for days with the bodies of several family members, all killed trying to escape northern Gaza. This harrowing audio of her cousin calling the Palestine Red Crescent for help captured the moment that their car came under attack from an Israeli tank.
انتوا جوا السيارة. Hello? Hello?
Hind's body was found the following month, along with 2 ambulance workers who had gone missing trying to rescue her. There are too many victims to name, there's too many to fathom, and there are countless orphans, like Lana, whose story CNN's Jomana Karadshe told.
6-year-old Lana was under the rubble of her home for 3 days. Mommy and Daddy are underneath it, she says. I just want Mama. I want Baba. I want my family, Lana cries.
According to figures from the Gaza Health Ministry, more than 72,000 Palestinians have been injured since the start of the war, and a large proportion of them are children. Dr. Mohammed Soubey is an emergency room physician who came from California to help in Gaza.
My first several patients were pediatric patients. One shot in the arm while he was sleeping in the tent. Another 2 kids pulled out of the rubble. We're still waiting to locate their family. Gunshot wound to the thigh in a 3-month-old, crushed extremities.
Of course, this conflict began after October 7th, as dozens of Israeli children were among those brutally murdered and kidnapped by Hamas. 42 children kidnapped that day, 2 still held captive, according to Reuters and the Times of Israel, after 40 were released in the temporary ceasefire. 116 were orphaned and 38 children were killed, including the youngest victim of the October 7th massacre, Mila Cohen, barely 10 months old, shot to death at Kibbutz Be'eri, her father and grandmother also murdered. And now here, this picture. 5 months later, another little girl named Mila, breathing her last breath. Mila Abdulnebi in Gaza. She died this past week of starvation. She was 3. We'll be right back.
In 75 years of struggle, what was the biggest mistake Palestinians made?
Signing Oslo Agreement, definitely. The problem with Oslo Agreement is that it created an illusion, as if the problem was solved. And the biggest problem of that agreement was that the Palestinians did not insist, as we asked before, on complete and total freeze of settlement activities in the West Bank and Gaza. So what happened is that the number of settlers increased from 121,000 in 1993, when the agreement was signed, to more than 750,000 today. They became a political force, and then they became the base for what you see today, which is Israeli fascism. Because the system we see now is a system of fascists.
Now you've seen this video circulating. If not, it is of Israeli soldiers entering a family's home and kidnapping their 7-year-old child in a town just south of Jenin refugee camp called Kabatiyah. Like I said, it's been circulating for a few days, so I'm sure that you've seen it. But have you seen this? Israeli soldiers arresting this child, or this one where Israeli soldiers are entering a school during school hours to arrest, kidnap this Palestinian child, or this one of an Israeli police officer arresting, kidnapping a Palestinian child with his knee on his chest. The circumstances that you are seeing in all of these videos is nothing special. It's not unusual. It's nothing out of the ordinary. What's different and what's special about these is that they're on camera. Israel repeatedly and for years has been kidnapping Palestinian children. And unless it's on video, it is very unlikely that parents will know what has happened to their child. This is an article from 2021 about how Israel has systemically been arresting, kidnapping Palestinian children in an effort to terrorize them. I'm pretty sure that date is before October 7. Israeli military and police have been kidnapping Palestinian children all over occupied Palestine, West Bank, for decades. A report as of January 31st of 2024, this year, it's been estimated that nearly 500 to 700 Palestinian children, some as young as 12 years old, are kidnapped by Israel and tried in military court system. For some added knowledge, Israel is the only country in the world that is systematically employing military court systems to prosecute children. The only country in the world. In a Time article about what Palestinian children face in Israeli prisons, it talks about how in the last 20 years alone, remember, Israel is almost 76 years old. We are going on 57 years of occupation and 17 years of siege on Gaza. This is just the last 20 years. It's estimated that 10,000 Palestinian children have been held in military detention. 10,000. You can see here this article is from December 15th of 2023. In this same article, it talks about how as of November 20th of last year, 2023, Israeli forces had arrested as many as 880 Palestinian children in 1 year. And while most of these children have been abducted from occupied Palestine, the West Bank, we are also now aware that Israelis are kidnapping babies in Gaza after they had killed their parents in a bombing or shot them. And while that situation wasn't necessarily abducting a child to put them into a military court system, and it was more stealing a baby to give to an Israeli family who wanted a baby, I guess it should be a little bit less surprising since Israel has been abducting babies since its founding. In what is now called the Yemenite babies affair, Yemeni babies were stolen from Jewish Yemeni families who were migrating into Israel during its founding. Now, the organized scheme in which these babies were stolen from these families is super dark. An Arab Jewish family would take their baby to a hospital. Many times they were encouraged to take their child to the hospital, even though they were a healthy baby. The baby was then taken to several institutions, assuming for treatment that this child didn't actually need. And then the parents were told that the baby died. When parents had asked to see the body of their children, they were then told that the hospital staff had already buried those children, I believe. And in a few cases, it has actually been proven through DNA that their children were stolen from them, told that they were dead, and then they were given to or sold to Ashkenazi or white families. Now, because some investigations are still ongoing, they don't have an exact number, but it's estimated that between 1,000 and 5,000 Yemenite babies were stolen. A low estimate says 1 in 8 children of Yemenite families disappeared upon arrival to Israel. I know that that's probably a lot of new information for some people, so I'm going to leave you to digest it.
Israeli prisons are nearly full. So much so that Netanyahu ordered the Shin Bet to make preparation for thousands of new Palestinian hostages, all while negotiating for Israeli hostages. Make it make sense. The propaganda machine is always hopping on board and saying that they are terrorists, that there is definitely reason for kidnapping. There isn't. They are not providing one. They are also stating that the number doubled since October 7th. There had been more than 4,000 Palestinians kidnapped from Gaza and the West Bank. The West Bank, where Hamas does not really exist. And here comes the phrasing, terror suspect. That's all it takes for you to be thrown in an Israeli jail with no access to lawyer, with no access to due process. And that's the Israeli Guantanamo. And you can be a child. In this video, you can easily spot 3 children being kidnapped, all under the age of 12. No one dares to question the Israeli army while doing so. Just thankful for the presence of the journalists and the photojournalists because we cannot claim ignorance. Israel is now starving Palestinians to death in Gaza, and they are kidnapping Palestinians and putting them in concentration camps to continue starving them. The Gaza Holocaust. And if that makes you feel uncomfortable, tough. You're either contributing to it or you're committing it. If you're watching this and you're full with rage, good. You're not looking away. Don't look away.
Is the brutal reality that Benjamin Netanyahu wants to continue this war for his own political survival?
The main objective of this whole event is his survival.
So are you saying Benjamin Netanyahu deliberately boosted Hamas to try to prevent a Palestinian state?
Yeah, sure. He deliberately and systematically even told, is on record, whoever wants to avoid the threat of a two-state solution has to support my policy of paying protection money to the Hamas.
We did everything in order to make sure that Hamas will go on controlling Gaza, and Palestinian Authority will control the West Bank, so they will fight each other.
Netanyahu allowed Qatar to give massive amounts of cash to Hamas in Gaza.
A huge amount of money in cash, probably more than $1.4 billion. By doing it, we increase the power of Hamas.
How powerful are Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, and what do you think of them?
I see them as terrorists.
Check something. Are you calling the Minister for National Security and the Minister for Finance in Israel, are you calling them terrorists?
Of course. They are.
They want to turn it into a major religious war between Israel and the Islam.
Are they dangerous?
Sure.
California police shot and killed a 15-year-old child with autism named Ryan Gaynor. Ryan was having an episode and he was holding a garden tool, so his family got afraid and they called the police to calm him down or to take him away to defuse the situation. But instead, the California police arrived and they shot that 15-year-old boy to death in front of his entire family. They shot him 3 times because they said he was approaching them with this tool in his hand, but they're now refusing to release the entire body cam footage. You probably don't know this or haven't had the opportunity to stop and think about this, but Black people who are neurodivergent and have disabilities are at an even greater risk of violence from the police. It is, however, something I and my family have given a lot of thought to because both of my twin brothers have autism. I came to America in 2008 and eventually all of my sisters came too, but my brothers are still in the Bahamas because we were just too afraid of what would happen to them in America if they ever had an episode or had any reason to be in contact with the police. There have been so many cases over the years to really exacerbate that fear, but I think the one that really struck fear in our heart was back in 2016. It was in Florida. There was an autistic Black man who had wandered off from the facility that was caring for him, and he was sitting in the middle of the street with a toy truck. And the Florida police surrounded him. And so his black therapist came outside with his hands up, went to the middle of the street with his hands in the air and said he is not armed. He has a toy truck. He's not going to shoot or harm anybody. And the police shot the therapist. And all that happened to the officer was that he was placed on administrative leave. These incidents illustrate why police should not be who responds to mental health crises, and why police should not be the only resource people feel like they can call when their family or their loved ones are having mental health crises. It's also why we in general just need to think more about people with disabilities and expanding disability rights to avoid incidents like this.
To all the viewers, make sure you have a great day, be the spark, and make sure to spread kindness.
America is not a democracy. It has never been a democracy, and it will never be a democracy. There is no freedom of speech. There is no freedom of expression. America was created and sustained by indigenous genocide and black enslavement, which is now sustained and reformed through the prison industrial complex. Two parties, Republicans and Democrats, are two sides of the same settler colony and American occupation of Turtle Island. Americanism, like Zionism, is a fascist political identity that normalizes the genocide of indigenous peoples, and anyone who tries to resist this oppression gets violently murdered by the state and the police. This is what we live in, and we need to wake up. Fascism is here.
Let's talk about the parallels of Israel and M23. So if you're like me, the basic information about DRC has risen a little bit in October. We know that there is a resource grab of coltan, cobalt, and other precious minerals, as well as a land grab. And we also know that there is militia M23 that is backed by Rwanda. And there's a lot of violence inflicted by them, especially in Eastern Congo. And the knowledge kind of stops there. And I want to invite you to join me to continue in learning about what's happening in Congo and how we can spread the knowledge and also do what we can. So let's connect the dots between M23 and Israel. So both of them are using the genocides of Jewish people in Rwanda to justify inflicting and causing another genocide. And of course we know that is not the root of why they're doing it, but they're using it as a front. And both M23 and Israel are armed, financed, and given diplomatic and political cover by the states. And what we need to do is learn what are the patterns of colonization. And something I also want to say is that the violence and the instability that's happening in Congo and also in other parts of Africa is always caused by colonization. The root is always exploitation from Western empires. I've been learning so much from the Friends of the Congo, so please join me in learning more and also donate to their spring campaign.
For a few days, the US has been pushing forward with plans to construct a floating port off the coast of Gaza. Questions arise about its effectiveness in addressing the immediate needs of Gazans. Despite the alarming humanitarian crisis in Gaza, the decision to build a port raises severe concerns amongst experts and aid organizations. While the US is ready to mobilize resources, including over 1,000 soldiers, for this endeavor, they presumably cannot even pressure Israel to open borders for humanitarian aid? Seriously? Let's remember, the US vetoed all UN calls for a ceasefire. Despite months of waiting, trucks remain stranded at crossing points controlled by Israel, highlighting the extreme contrast in priorities. Moreover, doubts linger regarding Israel's willingness to allow aid through the sea when it has consistently obstructed humanitarian efforts via land routes that they already control, by even attacking vehicles transporting aid. There are also logistical challenges, including how the aid will be unloaded from this famous port, transported to the shore, and reach all the way to the most vulnerable Gazans. Building the port could take up to 60 days, which would divert significant resources and attention from other very critical missions. The US initiative fails to address the underlying political barriers that restrict humanitarian access to Palestinians. The US focus should be on pressuring Israel to allow aid through various existing entry points rather than investing in ineffective infrastructure. It's clear that the real motives behind the port construction are still up in the air. This leaves us wondering, will this project truly bring immediate relief to the people of Gaza, or are there deeper agendas at play? Leave a comment and tell me what you think.
Tunnels. Okay, Love Muffin, which tunnels are we talking about? Hamas Disneyland under Shifa Hospital, where Yahya Tom Riddle Sinwar kept Salazar Slytherin's own basilisk, but then this vast command and control center magically disappeared? What about all the attacks on healthcare where there were no allegations of tunnels shooting at people that were trying to evacuate? When the Israeli sniper shot a nurse in the chest in the operating room, was there a tunnel inside this person's chest? Secondly, so what? They could have a 5 mile by 5 mile underground bunker exclusively for playing Pokemon Go. Why is that Israel's jurisdiction? Notwithstanding the use of these tunnels at times to smuggle in vital goods as per the illegal war crime of the siege. Why are we acting like this is the only use of tunnels in warfare, including Israel's own history with tunnels? Let's not forget the Zionist paramilitaries hid weapons stashes in civilian areas, conducted secret meetings in civilian areas. The Haganah's underground bullet factory, the same Haganah that went from a proscribed terrorist organization to the Israeli Defense Forces because Ben Gurion changed the Instagram handle. Thirdly, if Hamas were to send their exact location, they could send them a WhatsApp pin. The Israeli military would still be bombing north, the middle, and the south of Gaza, preventing humanitarian aid and indiscriminately attacking ambulances and hospitals. They would still be shooting Israeli hostages, waving a white flag, yelling help in Hebrew. Nobody's talking about the most important hollow cavity of them all, the space inside Bibi Netanyahu's head.
While the US continues to give Israel political, diplomatic, and financial support when it comes to bombing Palestinians in Gaza, the US is ironically continuing its pathetic food airdrops into the north of Gaza. And I'm really sorry to burst your bubble if you're one of those people who has been clapping and, rejoicing over these pathetic food airdrops, because if anything, they're a humiliation, and they've actually ended up killing people because the US airplanes are not even dropping them properly. They're dropping them on people's heads. So let's take a quick look at the recent developments regarding those pathetic airdrops. My friend Shukri sent me this video of a parachute that dropped on the roof of their house and it was empty. Surprise, surprise. There was nothing there, just the fabric of the parachute. I'm not sure if the US meant for this parachute to be repurposed into a tent, but I guess we'll never know. And then this other content creator, also happens to be called Shukri, posted this pink parachute, which was apparently dropped around Women's Day. I read another tweet that said that a Palestinian asphyxiated because the parachute dropped on his chest and he couldn't breathe. So yes, whatever port the US is trying to build is not about food. All that the port is going to do is strengthen Israel, allow it to annex more Palestinian land, and eventually expel the Palestinian population.
So they're pushing another TikTok ban bill really hard, but something does not add up about it at all.
Bro, I've been trying to wrap my head around this for the last couple days and nothing was making sense until I stumbled upon this leaked recording. First off, what I'm about to get into is highly controversial. It's extremely sensitive, so I'm gonna have to be really careful about it. This leaked recording is from about 4 or 5 months ago. It's Jonathan Greenblatt. He is the head of the Anti-Defamation League.
And so we really have a TikTok problem, a Gen Z problem, because again, like we've been chasing this left-right divide. It's the wrong game. The real game is the next generation. That our community needs to put the same brains that gave us Taglit, the same brains that gave us all these other amazing innovations, need to put our energy toward this, like fast.
Clear as day, we have a generational problem, we have a TikTok problem, and we're gonna need to put all our energy into this. And if there's any lobby that owns more US politicians, it is this one. I can't really say it out loud, but this is the one. Democrats and Republicans alike fear this lobby's clout. We can count on well over half the House, 250 to 300 members, to do reflexively whatever they want. In 24 hours, we could have the signatures of 70 senators on this napkin. Literally playing out right before our very eyes. There's also this Time magazine article that just came out. Why TikTok needs to be sold or banned before the 2024 election. The article barely even mentions China or election security. Almost the entirety of it focuses solely on this issue right here. Another chart from the article. And the ironic thing is that, yes, it's true. A foreign government has infiltrated the US, except it's just not the country they want you to think it is.
The United States isn't trying to ban TikTok. They're trying to control it. The reason is because there's a lot less censorship on TikTok compared to companies like YouTube and Meta. This isn't about protecting information, and this has everything to do with Palestine. The reason Israel is having such a difficult time with propaganda now is because people are educated and educating, especially on TikTok, about the realities of what's going on in Palestine. And we are getting our news more from social media rather than mainstream media. TikTok is a threat, and back in November, Jonathan Greenblatt, who was the head of the ADL, said that getting Israeli support is not a left and right issue, it's a generational issue. And he believes that TikTok is the reason that Gen Z will not conform to believing the propaganda of Israel. The reason that Palestine has so much support for the first time. This is why the United States government has rallied so fast to pass this bill, because it's not about banning TikTok. It's about controlling TikTok so they can control the masses.
An attempt to ban TikTok. It's an attempt to make TikTok better. Tic-tac-toe. A winner.
Please resign. Congress voted today 352 to 65 to advance the ban on TikTok, further proving that they all work on behalf of the ADL and AIPAC and not their constituents, because hundreds of thousands of people called their reps and said to vote against it, and they don't give a fuck what you think because they don't represent you. People are like, oh, it's bipartisan. Listen, I've told you guys this a million times. When something is bipartisan like this in Washington, it is usually something that screws you. The only time they have bipartisanship is when they want to deregulate, do tax cuts for the rich, or when they want to censor something. We've talked about this over the last few days. They don't like the fact that young people and even people across the spectrum of ages are not with them on Gaza. They have all but come out and admitted that. They want to ban it because they don't like people talking about politics in a way that they don't immediately control. They're not controlling, despite their best efforts and despite the incredible censorship that TikTok has done on this issue. They haven't been able to control the narrative. They haven't been able to control how you think. And they don't like that. They have admitted as much, and so they want it gone. That's why I don't think that TikTok should be kowtowing to them and censoring all the content about Gaza to appease them, because nothing is going to appease them. They're going to try to ban it anyway. The fact that these two, this extreme right-wing fascist and this so-called progressive liberal, agree on this should tell you everything you need to know about it.
Anyways, so this Caleb, Sean King, whatever, I did my research, and I think you guys all should do your research. Like, it's good to be informed about this. I didn't really, the Sean King, I was really like, I look it up, and yeah, there's a lot, okay? This guy is the epiphany of a serious politician corrupt, you know? And how they try to use trauma and all that stuff for real. So I didn't know, so that's why I'm like, oh man, that's not good. See, you have to inform yourself. You have to use discernment because all of us can be victims of people fucking being Judas and we are not aware, okay? The Caleb guy, that was really shocking for me because I was like, wait, but I thought he was Palestinian and stuff like that. And there are times that I've been into his life and I've noticed like he's just like, and I'm like, okay, so I just leave, like, but the fact that he was saying that lets you know that they're not really in for the Palestine diaspora or helping Palestinians and it's good that people who actually care about the situation, that actually are not doing this for clout or doing this for money or to get some type of recognition or something like that, it's good that they call this thing out to help not only us to be aware of it, but also those who are being taken advantage of, right? We don't want that. We want people to be clear and not confuse people and not take people advantage of people. Not be pendejo, pendejo, pendeja. And if you don't know what that means in Spanish, go look it up, okay? We are not pendejos or pendejas, all right? So it's nice when that shows also that they really care, that they're like, wait, even if they get backlash and all this thing is going to happen, I'm going to speak my truth and I'm going to help you understand that you don't idolize people. This is what God tells you all the time. Don't idolize people, celebrity, influencers, nobody. Don't read their energy. I wasn't idolizing them. It was concrete with the fact that other Palestinians were informing the same information. So I was like, okay, so it has to be legit from Caleb guy, right? But now I see why he's doing it. I was like, oh, fuck. And then I saw the tour. It was an ad that happened on Instagram, the tour of him and Sean King. And I was like, wait, Sean King? Why? What the fuck? Like, I know that we're supposed to forgive people that we go to from the past and stuff like that. But the fact that they're doing the exact same thing, like, it's like they're not learning their lesson, that they shouldn't be doing this. You know what I'm saying? They're still doing it. But now it's like different. Now he's converted. Oh. What? Use religion to convince people that he's a good guy, that they're both good people. Anyways, I know that a lot of people are pissed off. Like, I know from the Christian evangelist community that come out here. They're like, what? You're doing Ramadan? You're not even Muslim. Like, exactly. Why does that bother you? Why can you do it for solidarity for Palestine, Congo, and Sudan? And it's day 4, and I'm learning so much. My discernment is like up there. The connection, I can hear God like as if like, woof, clear as day. Learn that some of us, we have to do certain sacrifices in a different way. Everybody's in a different journey, different situations. But learn that not everybody is going to the path that you're going, and that's okay. But still stand up for those who need us to stand up for and continue what we're doing, because this is going to be a long road to eradicate oppression, white supremacy, racism, and being an Zionist, right? Systems and capitalist system. All of that stuff, we have to be anti that. And we are the antidote. And the system knows that. That's why it's trying to keep us quiet, keep us in fear and doubt, and doing all kinds of weird ass stuff in the background in our energy. I'm just letting someone know here that when you do that to intuitive people, especially very, very connected to God, you know that you're not doing that to us. You know that, right? You're going against the Creator, and you'll meet Him. Absolutely. I guarantee that. But not in the circumstances that you're thinking you're going to meet Him.
All right, buckle up, because I was not kidding. And I hope that you guys watch the whole thing, okay? Because I know that you guys don't really like when I do my 10-minute videos, but I had to go back in the archives for this, okay? So stay with me through the whole thing. I'm laughing a little bit, even though it's not funny, because it's so absurd. This guy is such a con artist. I am amazed that he is still able to get away with this grip in the age of the internet. Like, We have the internet now. We have Google, we have Twitter, we have TikTok. It is amazing to me that this guy somehow still is able to take the money and run, to be Scam I Am, and get away with it at this late date. So I know you've probably heard the phrase before, listen to black women. And it's one thing when people say that about elections, when you hear people say it like about the arguments between voting for Biden or not, because black women are not a monolith in that case. There are a lot of black women who don't want to vote for Joe Biden. There are a lot of black women who do want to vote for Joe Biden. But in this case, just using that as an example, I don't know any black woman that doesn't know about his scams. I feel like every black woman knows and has called out at some point the scams of Scam I Am. So let's get into it. We'll just start with this one because it's up. He started a PAC called the Grassroots Law PAC and took $40,000 of it to buy a dog. Whatever happened to Grassroots PAC, you might ask? You know what? All of his ventures just kind of disappear after a while. It's very strange. King pulled over $268,000 in salary in 2021 from this Grassroots PAC, while his media company, the North Star, was paid $60,000 from email lists. But let's go back. Oh, and he got rid of the dog. He thought the dog had too much energy, so he ended up getting rid of it. So Shaun King was a pastor, and then he just like left his church, like he bailed on it, like a Christian pastor. I know he converted. I know you're not supposed to make fun of people and changing their religion, but I feel like in his case it's warranted. Anyway, he started making a name for himself basically by profiting off of black people's deaths. So like after the Ferguson murder of Michael Brown, he started doing activism to raise money for the families, which leads me to Tamir Rice. Many of you will recall that Tamir Rice was a 12-year-old boy who was killed after like 2 seconds a police drove up to him in Ohio. It was a horrific story. And Shaun King, without his mother's consent, his grieving mother's consent, started a fundraiser and raised an obscene amount of money that he wouldn't even disclose. And then when his mother got upset, he's like, oh, here's $60,000. Like, I raised it for Tamir Rice's fund. He had a conversation with her on the phone because that's what he does. He tries to like cozy up to people and like get their trust. And then he took the call with her and made it into a podcast without her consent again. I never gave you permission to raise nothing, Rice went on to say. Along with the United States, you robbed me for the death of my son. That's who Shaun King is. Then he started a media company called the North Star, in which he raised tons of money from people getting subscriptions to it, angel investors, all this kind of shit. And supposedly, this was going to be grassroots liberation journalism. But it came out later from whistleblower employees that he wasn't actually overseeing anything, wasn't actually doing a lot of the writing, treating the employees really badly. What happened to North Star? His con is so prolific that there have been articles written about this being like, Shaun King keeps raising money and questions about where it goes. He blamed issues at the North Star over ambition. He started another scam called Justice Together, which was supposed to raise awareness and do police accountability and all this stuff. Again, tons of unaccounted for money. He also takes credit for fundraisers he didn't do. This was a famous fundraiser that happened during the time that Trump was separating children from their families. And these people raised all this money to try to help migrants reunite with their family. And Shaun King started going around and telling people in order to build his brand more and get more opportunities that he was the one that was responsible for this fundraiser. He started another scam PAC called Take Back the Senate, where it was supposed to focus on primary Republicans and flipping it to blue seats. Again, raised a ton of money, and then it disappeared. The website just disappeared. Red Record, he was going to launch a podcast. It appears it was submitting under Justice Together, as well as working on it separately. He recruited a black organizer, and then, of course, took the money and ran. In 2011, because this scam goes back a long time, he did like a let's raise money and climb 7 mountains. He raised a ton of money doing that and then quit after 4 days and the website disappeared. He started another scam organization called Hope Mob. It was supposed to be like a crowdfunding organization that was supposed to specifically focus on raising money for black families and marginalized communities because that's who he profits off of. He raised $160,000 from the crowdsourcing foundation organization he called Hope Mob in 2013. So this whole scam when he was raising money for families and then paying himself $160,000. You guys, he had a fake university. He's like Trump. In 2013, Sean charged people $49.99 to teach them how to plan their lives. He did not follow through on those commitments, and the comments page highlighted issues people face. How amazing is that? He starts a scam university being like, I'm going to teach you how to clean up your life, and then doesn't follow through with it. Oh, and this one was one I almost forgot about. And honestly, I'm sure that there are ones that I'm forgetting about. I'm sure that there are other ones that maybe people who see this video will remember and be like, don't forget about this. He also did this. But these are ones that were either just off the top of my head or from just quickly Googling, like, list of his scams. He started another bullshit PAC. A PAC oftentimes is a black hole of money and you have no idea where it's going. You have no idea who is accounting for it. Real Justice PAC was another one. How many PACs has this guy had? And this was supposed to be addressing more issues around criminal and social justice. What happened to that PAC? He also attached his name and tried to ride the wave off of the Dakota Access Pipeline and was trying to raise money off of that. Tell me how all these things just disappear and yet his revenue continues to go up. How does he have all these organizations, all of these PACs, all of these ventures, all of these outlets, and he continues to make money for them, and then they all just disappear? King was also called out by activists back in 2019 for his alleged mishandling of the fundraising in the case of Jasmine Barnes, who was a child who was killed in a drive-by shooting, and not following through with the promised rewards. Instead of taking the criticism, he threatened legal actions toward the young Black and in at least 2 cases, queer writers and activists. That's what he does. So he raises money off of the trauma of Black people, and then he takes the money and run. And then if anybody confronts him about it, because he's got all these Black people in his orbit because he wants to use them for like clout and be like, oh, look at all these Black people I have working for me. And then when they call him out, he just blocks them or threatens to sue them. King also did not respond to my question about the report's omission of $17,500 grant to Justice Together, an anti-police brutality organization he disbanded in 2015. Yeah, weird how all these organizations just get disbanded. There is nothing that this guy won't do to scam people and make money. He disputes clothing line is a scam after unfulfilled orders. So he starts this scam fucking clothing line where he's charging upwards of $155 for a hoodie, and then people weren't getting their stuff. Of course, because it's a scam. It's always a scam. So then this woman wrote, hello, it's been 8 months since Sean King launched a private clothing line that sold $165 hoodies. There hasn't been an update since October. The entire Instagram has been deleted, and the last existing comments were people saying that they hadn't gotten their order. It's next level pathological. You guys, he took credit for hostages being released during the Hamas and Israel negotiations back in November. So to bring this all back around, and I hope that you guys are still with me at this point, and I hope if you know anybody, I'm begging you, if you know anyone that is going to spend money on this, I implore you to implore them to not. There are so many other causes that you guys could be giving your money to. I understand people want to give, people have good hearts, they want to help. There are so many GoFundMes through like Operation Olive Branch that are families in Rafah trying to get out that you could put that money toward. Please do not, or let anybody you love, buy a $120 ticket or a $60 ticket to watch this next level grifter pretend to raise money for Gaza, because I guarantee you, Gaza will see none of that money. Do not give this guy any of your money. I don't even know. Why are you on tour talking about Gaza? Okay? I'm not saying that people shouldn't be spreading awareness about Gaza everywhere they can. Okay? So if he wanted to just spread awareness about Gaza, then okay, amplify what's going on there, great. But that's not what this is. He's going on tour. He is making a profit. He is going on tour as an authority.
I know a lot of people who are pro-Israeli who I think are good people. They just believe what they believe. I also believe that the vast majority of people in the world are good people, right? And that includes individuals who are pro-Israel. That includes individuals who are Zionists, right? We shouldn't get into this mentality that people are monsters. We shouldn't that whenever I talk to somebody on the other side, 9 times out of 10, if it's conducted in a civil, honest, and good faith way, only bilateral and symbiotic benefit and education can grow from that. So I definitely want to push you to have those conversations. In the difficult conversations, the challenging discussions are typically the most constructive and nurturing, right? So please do have them. One more question.
I refuse to believe that people who made a platform, made a career based on my struggle and what I'm living on a daily right now. And those people have been living in their houses in America, claiming that they care a lot about me and my people. The thing they do the second I expose them, instead of providing proof that I'm wrong, is they call me a coward and they gang up on me. They call the Gazan influencers whom they made start barking on me and sending me death threats. In a genocide, I'm being sent death threats, literally. And you come up to me and say that you will stop talking about Palestine because I exposed one of your friends? Is that how it is? We're living under a genocide. My voice does not matter anymore. You're doing a fucking tour in the name of Gaza when you're not even Palestinian. When they proved so many times that they don't care about me, about black people, about Iraqis, about so many people, and got cancelled so many times by multiple communities. And all I did was expose those people. In a world where my people threat my life, they send me death threats because of those people, because of Khalid and Tom King. And then I get called that I'm the one who's splitting the line. And I'm the one who's a Zionist. Thank you. Thank you so much.
The UN experts have come out with a report mentioning that Palestinian women and girls in Israeli detentions are being R-worded and assaulted. This is not the first time. This has been going on for a very, very, very long time, and it's just getting more sinister and disturbing. The report mentions Palestinian female detainees being subjected to multiple forms of the S-word, with at least 2 detainees reportedly R-worded, while others were allegedly threatened with the R-word and this S-word violence. They also described women being strip searched by male Israeli officers and noted the circulation of degrading images of detainees online by Israeli soldiers. Such barbaric behavior. The statement also reported of a woman allegedly being held in a cage in the wind and rain. Hundreds of Palestinian women and girls have been detained since October 7 and subjected to inhumane and degrading treatment, including the S-word, beatings, and a denial of food, medicine, and period products. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. Again, this is not new information. It's just, I guess, a good thing that the UN and these organizations are now bringing it onto paper, like actually keeping track, recording history. But this is just the most just demonic behavior. Like Israel, the government, all the colonizers that support and back them and fund them, their soldiers, these people, no one can convince me that they are not from the devil himself. Like, because the type of creative evil they have exposed all of us to see and witness, and for the Palestinians enduring this type of violence for the past 75 years, it's honestly insanity.
I feel like everybody knows what AIPAC is, right? It's the Israeli lobbyist group that controls the US government. Well, thankfully Canada doesn't do that, you guys. We're an ethical nation. Oh, hold up. No, we're not. Our government's also controlled. Here's CIJA, Canadian Council for Israel and Jewish Advocacy. It would be so great if we could actually see a list of all of the MPs who have maybe taken money over the years and taken these educational trips to Israel. Oh, hold up. We do have that list. So this is just the current MPs that have taken CIJA-sponsored trips to Israel. Okay, so we see Conservative, Liberal, Bloc Québécois, NDP. Here's all of their names and how much money they have taken. This is just current, right? It's quite a bit. Oh, it's going. Better yet, folks, I'm just going to go ahead and scoot on out of here so you can just snapshot this and zoom in and take a look at it later. Look at your province and all the MPs. Do you recognize their names? I see Dan Elbis, John Eldig. John Eldig had some interesting quotes about his recent trip to Israel, his educational trip, where he learned why Canada as a nation needs to prioritize the needs of protecting Israel. So interesting. Other names that I recognize, Don Davies, Suk Dhaliwal. Suk, come on, man. I was like, maybe he thought he was going to Egypt. I don't know. CIJA is not the only Zionist lobby that has rooted itself within our government. There are multiple lobbyist groups like this. And if they're not getting money from the lobbyist groups, who's paying for it? You are. You guys might already have this information. I don't know, but I'm just saying it is interesting to note that 14.6 million, that's a 10% increase from last year, on just the first half of 2023 was spent by our MPs on just their travel. That's 80 grand a day in just travel expenses using tax-paying dollars. That's fun. So this is a fun analysis. Let's see if I'm getting this right. Tell me if I'm wrong, because I'm always okay to admit when I'm wrong. Okay, so Canada's number one priority is to ensure the safety, security, and health of the Israelis, okay, of Israel, and protecting it as a nation, as a state. And then that's done through the continued killing and the genocide against the Palestinians. We need to get all the Palestinians. They pose a threat to the entire Jewish community here in Canada. Rise of anti-Semitism. Don't want any of that. So we need to protect Israel at all costs. Meanwhile, Canadians are literally dying outside of our ER, the hospitals, because there are not enough nurses or doctors to provide any care. We are in a horrific and inhumane state. Our healthcare crisis just continues to get worse day by day. You got people outside patching up their own wounds with super glue and then just leaving and dying a couple blocks down. True story. Interesting. What do you think about that?
I need you to see this. Elon Musk is spreading a very specific kind of racism on the internet right now.
Elon started retweeting some of the most prominent race scientists, and there was like nothing. No one, Chuck Schumer met with him after that. He is like the sort of patient zero for a lot of stuff right now.
Elon seems to really like this account. They've gone by a few names on the platform, but they share extremely racist content that argues that black people are innately intellectually inferior beings. We actually settled this debate generations ago, but Elon Musk is helping to bring it back.
Meet Louis Agassiz, a Swiss-born American biologist who believed that the races developed separately and were of different origins. In his view, Negroes were of the, quote, lowest grade of humanity.
Look at this graph. It shows the follower growth of this account over time. And many of those peaks that you're seeing are the moments when Elon Musk engaged with them over the last few years. A simple response from Elon gives a fringe account like this one access to millions of users, drawing greater attention to these destructive ideas and earning this account tens of thousands of new followers. This page is part of a larger network of race science advocates on Twitter, people who use out-of-context IQ data and cherry-picked examples to make gross, sweeping statements about entire groups of people. And Elon Musk gobbles it up, pulling his audience of tens of millions of followers down the rabbit hole with him. And I'm not the only one who recognizes Elon's impact. They know that he's the best thing to happen to their racist ideas too, saying that he's done more to raise awareness for their cause than anything else.
People are not being convinced by the strength of the empirical argument. They're being convinced by the appearance of the empirical argument.
That's Will Stansel. He's an attorney and he's been fighting against this army of bigots for months.
People are almost more susceptible to the simpler, charts with like race and IQ than they are to the really complicated stuff. The simple stuff, they can look at the chart and there's a line, there's a line that says black Americans and says IQ 70, white Americans IQ 101, and people go, well, that's it then. This is the most basic statistical error in the book. Is that correlation doesn't equal causation.
Now, if you encounter this content in the wild, there are graphs in academic sounding language saying that IQ data proves that people of European descent are intellectually and genetically superior. You may know that it's wrong, but you may not have the language for it. So I reached out to Dr. Sasha Gusev.
My name is Sasha Gusev. I am an associate professor at the Harvard Medical School. I am a statistical geneticist by training.
I asked him if there was any scientific legitimacy to the claims that these people were making.
So I think there's a couple of ways to think about it. One is this concept of race fundamentally doesn't have a basis in biology. So, as I mentioned, like the model, the evolutionary model that we have of genetic diversity is completely different from this sort of social model that we have of distinct, isolated racial groups. And so whenever we start talking about racial differences, that is already a flawed view of looking at genetic variation, which just does not follow those kinds of hard and separate racial distinctions.
I think Dr. Gusev captured perfectly why Elon's role in spreading these ideas is just so uniquely dangerous.
There's a kind of fusion of old school, just like gutter racism that everybody can kind of recognize, and this new school Silicon Valley data-driven analysis. And I think that is very confusing to people, and a lot of times they don't know what to do with it. They say, hey, there's this thing that I understand is ugly, and then there's somebody posting 100 charts that seem to support it.
Talk to me, why are you engaging in this online? I mean, you're a busy, scholarly individual, you're a professor. What brings you to Twitter to argue with derps online?
That's a good question. I asked that question myself a lot too. I think it is important for the people who actually run those studies and understand where those charts are coming from and how their work is being misused, to be out there and talking about it.
Allow me to point out that you are supporting Israel solely for the reason that they look like you. Light hair, light eyes. We all know that the only people who successfully get to cry victim are people who look like that. Keep in mind that Israel is in the Middle East, where the population of surrounding countries look like me and a majority of the people in this room. Kind of makes you wonder, right? How did those people get there? The same way you all got here. Slaughtering natives, stealing land, and claiming it as your own. And one day, we will receive the same pitiful reparations and apologies that were given to the Native Americans, African Americans, Vietnamese, Holocaust victims, and the list goes on and on and on and on, because we continue to repeat history instead of learning from it. Do you mind? Thank you. I don't want apologies. I want preventative measures and empathy at the very least, but even that seems too much to ask for. Ceasefire now.
And speaking of interests and blind support, let's briefly talk about AIPAC for a sec. AIPAC stands for the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, and they're one of the biggest lobbying groups in America, and most certainly the biggest Israeli lobbying group in America. What this means is that they give the most money to our politicians to make them do and say what they want them to. And guess what their name used to be? The American Zionist Committee for Public Affairs. They've paid tens of millions of dollars to politicians to get their Zionist agendas passed in our country, and it's been working. Here's an example of how AIPAC influences elections. Nida Alam launched her bid for Congress last year, and during her campaign, she called for an end to Israel's violent, illegal occupation. AIPAC caught word, as this goes against their very existence, and then threw millions of dollars in support of Alam's opponent, Valerie Fauci. Fauci eventually beat Alam by a 9-point margin as a result of massive contributions pushed into her campaign through Israeli lobbying groups. The impact of AIPAC's massive campaign spending has come into full view. By dumping over $30 million into the elections, AIPAC sought to keep candidates critical of Israel's human rights abuses from gaining greater power in Congress, to replace retiring progressive incumbents with allies, and to make progressives think twice about criticizing Israeli apartheid at all. So here's a list of AIPAC's top contributions.
Out of 435 members of the House of Representatives, 269 received pro-Israel lobby contributions at an average of more than $23,000 per representative. And out of 100 U.S. senators, 58 accepted contributions at an average of more than $77,000 per senator. AIPAC pushes for laws in Congress. Each year, AIPAC and other pro-Israel lobby groups put their weight behind a number of legislations, especially when they are anti-Iran, anti-Palestine, and of course, pro-Israel. These legislations include moving the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, cutting aid to Palestinians, and countering the BDS movement. The group also lobbied heavily against the Obama-era Iran deal, which President Donald Trump withdrew from in 2018.
As a result, this is why you see all your pro-life, humanitarian, even feminist politicians all standing there stewing in their hypocrisy and even proactively speaking out against Palestinians and standing with an apartheid regime. Just listen to these democratic women.
I have a really good take from our friend Hillary Clinton, friend of the show.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, Hillary Clinton.
Favorite
She
author,
tweeted,
Hillary Clinton.
This is a very small take, but I think it was noteworthy nonetheless.
Okay.
She tweeted, quote, "If Russian leadership would rather not be accused of committing war crimes, they should stop bombing hospitals."
People who are calling for a ceasefire now do not understand Hamas. That is not possible. It would be such a gift to Hamas because they would spend whatever time there was a ceasefire in effect rebuilding their armaments, creating stronger positions to be able to fend off an eventual assault by the Israelis. So we're in a very different world. I don't think it had to be the world we're in, but that's where we are, and we've got to figure our way forward through it.
Ask me, if this capital crumbled to the ground, the one thing that would remain is our commitment to our aid, and I don't even call it aid, our cooperation with Israel. Because that's fundamental to fundamental.
They even openly contradict themselves because they don't see Palestinians as humans. What applies to one group clearly doesn't apply to another. The racism is just straight up in your face without any shame. So I want to end this by mentioning a few action items that I think are critical, especially through this incredible momentum we have garnered. And again, this is very important for the younger generation. 1. We need to have more pro-Palestinian voices in positions of influence, particularly in government. Yes, having actual Palestinians in these positions is vital, but this also applies for non-Palestinian candidates that are openly pro-Palestine and pro-Palestinian freedom. It's critical we mobilize behind candidates like this. Our younger generation must get involved in politics, even if it's joining a grassroots movement as a volunteer or interning with a pro-Palestinian political candidate. Start with your local government even. We can't change the status quo if we don't change the people running our country. 2. When protesting, it is important to keep a level head. It's hypercritical to be peaceful and to hold yourself to a high standard above those that spew hate. Do not act or react to hateful provocations. Do not react out of anger. That's what they want. I know we are all angry, but channel that into tactful and respectful forms of protest. One way is that rather than respond to the hateful and racist rhetoric thrown your way, what I want you to do is document these acts of hate and racism and expose it to the world. This is single-handedly one of the most powerful forms of exposing the ideological differences in each group of supporters we have. Also, as an example, Gal Gadot staged a viewing of a propaganda film documentary to force-feed lies to her Hollywood colleagues. But the intent was also to get pro-Palestinian Arabs to come protest the event so that they can film them and paint them to be pro-terrorist or anti-Semitic. They're doing everything in their power to make us out to be something we're not. So it's important to just always keep a level, tactful, and peaceful head. What did we do in this instance? Rather than our Arab brothers and sisters going to protest this event, we had our beautiful and amazing allies, Jewish Voice for Peace, protest as Jews against the spreading of false information and the occupation of Palestine. That is what tactful and strategic protesting looks like. 3. Boycott, boycott, boycott. We need to boycott all companies operating in Israel or supporting Israel monetarily. We need to boycott AIPAC and AIPAC-backed candidates. If a candidate or company gets 1 penny from AIPAC, it is imperative that they not receive a single ounce of support. It is not hard to research who AIPAC is funding, so before you vote, look up the candidates and their stances on Palestine. 4. Do not let them silence you. It is important to not let these politicians take down specific social platforms that they feel is not in their best interest. This is a form of eliminating free speech, so do not allow them to ban a platform like TikTok that is allowing the general public voice to be heard. And 5, lastly, continue to speak up for Palestine. Continue to call your reps. We will never forget what has been done to the Palestinian people, and nor should you. I hate that I have to keep reminding you of this, but 1 Palestinian child is killed every 10 minutes. 1 out of 200 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza. The death toll continues to rise with no action from our elected leaders. We need to continue to call for an immediate ceasefire because each day that passes without one is another day we have failed the Palestinian people. So to the younger generation, we are so much stronger having you all in our corner. We will forever be indebted to you all because, like I've said before, I have never, in my old ass almost 39 years of life, felt a wave of love and support for our Palestinian people like I do now. So thank you all and keep doing what you're doing. Palestine will be free because of you. Peace and love.
All right. Now gotta go back to work. My break doing this because I'm definitely going to alchemize my energy tonight, but I'll make sure that this video is posted before I go out. Yeah, make sure that you are supporting the content creators that were here that are included in this video. Make sure that you share, you follow, you continue, spreading the awareness. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you guys so much for your super thanks, your donations, those who purchase on writersip.com or here on the YouTube channel, okay, or those who donate on Instagram on my posts. Thank you so much. It's really appreciated. And I know that the Children Palestine and other organizations that are attaching to my Instagram, if you look at it, they are going to really appreciate it, and may God bring that to you 10 times fold, okay? Thank you for doing out of the kindness of your heart, by listening to your intuition, because I know God uses other people to help others, so that's important, okay? Always, always, always follow your intuition and pray for discernment every single day, okay? Make sure you're also looking at my TikTok on the repost area, okay? There's still a lot of time until this actually bill comes through, which I don't think so. I just know it's not going to. But even if it does, there's other ways. We'll always find other ways. God will show us other ways, okay? He always does. Always. And they're not better than God. They're not bigger than God, okay? These people are old and old farts, okay? And they don't understand. They're just benefiting from lobbyists giving them a nice paycheck, and that's it. They don't know the situation of what starvation means, what stop consumerism and materialistic lifestyle is. They don't know what struggle is, okay? So they're just assuming and putting things because it just benefit their pockets. And at the end of the day, this is why inequality, it's not sustainable. This is why capitalism is not sustainable. This is why this imperialist, capitalist, disgusting Zionist system, it has to fall, and it will. It already is. That's the beauty of it. We're just seeing the aftermath, but that's okay. Stand your ground. Keep there, okay? Keep raising your awareness, okay? Continue enlightening yourself. Continue healing. That is their biggest fear. You healing, not turning into those monsters that try to hurt you or try to traumatize you or try to put fear-monger project over you, okay? Make sure that you continue above that. Be above that, okay? Be fearless. This is why, when you connect to God, He gives you that extra courage, extra joy and peace to continue going and not give up on your dreams, on your passion, on your mission, because that's also protection. Yes, we talk about this on this channel. Those who are new here, all the time I've been saying this. Your calling, your talents and gift that everybody thinks that you shouldn't be doing, that you know that you love, that you should be doing more, that's your protection. I'm telling you. And that's where you find God too, because God loves to be around when you're doing your thing. For example, whenever I'm writing, I know He's around. Whenever I'm talking like this, I know He's around. When I'm talking in the podcast, I know He's around. When I'm painting, I know He's around. Why? Because I'm exercising all the gifts and talents that He gave me, not only to share it with the world for healing purposes, because as I am a healer, but also for others to find their inspiration to do their own thing, but also protection. It protects me, it protects my family, it protects those around me, it protects my channels. Okay? Especially when you also do it with integrity and honesty and clarity, and for justice as well. Okay? Just saying. Do the right thing. Be on the right side of history, and you can never go wrong with that. Okay? I love you. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope this was enlightening for you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.